Welcome to Beers with Brownie. We're an International Rugby League YouTube series where we bring on some International Rugby League legends and tell their stories. So for those that are new to the channel, for every 100 subscribers until we reached 1,000 subscribers, we sent out 10 students to developing international rugby league nations all around the world. We've uploaded some of those videos already just to show you how those balls are getting put to good use and how they're helping to develop rugby league around the world. So I'd like to welcome our guest for this episode. He's got quite the rugby league CV, so bear with me. I'm just going to read it out quickly. I've been trying to get him on the show for quite a while because he's got some fantastic stories to tell. He was the founder of Rugby League in Norway. He played rugby league in the USA domestic competition. He's played in the UK for the London Scholars. He's played for the USA and for Norway for the national teams. And he founded the Scandinavian Nines. Warren Heilig, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Brownie. Good to see you again, mate.
So I've always been a big fan of Warren's, and I've admired his passion for growing rugby league around the world. I saw it firsthand when I was in Oslo, refereeing at the Scandinavian Nines, and this is going to be a good story to tell. So for those that are new to the channel, every episode we like to support a beer that supports rugby league. Carlton United Breweries have quite a number of products, and they are the official beverage partner of the NRL. So we've got as Warren played in the USA, we're going to go with an American iconic beer, Budweiser. So thank you to Carlton United Breweries for your support of rugby league. Cheers, Woz.
Cheers, mate. I've been waiting for this.
Like, hurry up and get to the beer. And also on every episode, I like to wear a piece of rugby league merchandise to show my support for international rugby league and developing rugby league areas. So today I'm going with the Toronto Wolfpack. I was lucky enough when I was living in London, I went to visit Lamport Stadium in Toronto 3 times to see the Wolfpack play. And it was great to see Canadians and North Americans really getting into the sport we love. It's just a shame that it didn't continue, but one day hopefully rugby league can resurrect a professional team there or a professional comp. So I'd just like to show my support for Toronto Wolfpack and Canada Rugby League. So Woz, my first question, so how did you come to love rugby league?
I had no choice. I got a Maori mother and a father who grew up in Brisbane, so I don't think there was any other choice for me. Maybe if my old man was from Melbourne, I might have been playing AFL and been the worst AFL player you've ever seen. But mate, yeah, that's it. Dad's from Brisbane, Mum's Maori. You know how they love a bit of rugby league, bashing each other. So yeah, it was pretty inevitable.
So Woz, which junior footy clubs did you play for, and which positions did you play?
Mate, there was only one ever junior club for me. I'm a life member of Wynnum Manly Juniors, so I'm a Wynnum boy through and through.
And what position did you play as a kid growing up?
Oh, shit. Everything. Even the orange peeler at one stage.
Jack of all trades.
Yeah, pretty much. Jack of all trades and a master of none.
So Woz, we're going to talk about your experiences playing in the USA and in Norway, but before that, you're quite a good footy player and you played a bit of Queensland Cup here in Queensland. So tell us about who you played for and those experiences.
I was going all right as a young fella, and I signed with Wynnum, and I played me Colts and a bit of Reggie's there, and then I wasn't going to get a start, so yeah, I swapped over and went to South and got a couple of games in the Q Cup there, and then I got the opportunity to go to the US, so that was it. Packed me bags, I'm out of here.
So Woz, tell us, when you went over to the US, which team did you play for, and how did you find the standard, and was it a good experience?
Mate, well, here's a funny thing. How that happened was, I hope you're ready for this story. So how that happened was, I'd met an American girl in Surfers Paradise, and I went home with her for the night, and we stayed in contact. She was living in Coffs Harbour.
Wow.
And anyway, we were sort of dating and seeing each other. Then she went home, and when she went home, I went over and visited her for a Christmas. And when I went there, I ran into a bloke who had a Canterbury Bulldogs jersey on in a pub.
That's random.
Very random. Anyway, this man was absolutely ginormous. You should have seen it. He was a man mountain, and it just happened to be a legendary US rugby league player, old Freddie Gruler.
Wow.
So he played in the original Sevens team.
See the one with the shaved head?
Yeah, big Freddie, like big bad Freddie. So
wow.
Anyway, he took my number and he said in his big, loud American voice, "Dude, if you ever want to come over, I'm going to start a team, man. You come and play for me."
Love it.
I was, well, I'm too busy. I'm scared of you, mate, to be quite honest. So, yeah, whatever you say. And in the end, I gave him a call and I just said, "Mate, are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah, dude, yeah, come over." And yeah, the rest is history. I ended up, over there for a couple of years and made some great mates. Americans who I still talk to this day. So isn't it funny? That's the beauty of our game. It's an actual world game.
So what was the standard of footy like, and how did the team go that season?
Oh, mate, we made the grand final. Now we lost. We lost to Glenn Mills Bulls. That was it. Now Glenn Mills,
David New's team.
Yeah. So old Dave New, who ran the league, he actually captain coached the main team there, and mate, they were good. They were just big. They were big and hard and
physical.
And unfortunately, a lot of Americans don't really know what footwork was. just
run hard.
Yeah, it was just a bashathon. So I think I weighed about at that time. I must have weighed about 80 kilos, wringing wet.
Right.
So And
what position were you playing that season?
Mate, I was playing 5'8" over there.
Right.
I had to sort of try and steer the ship a bit because you'd sort of be directing these big units. You just stand out there and run that way and I'll get the ball to you. So just keep doing that and we'll be fine.
So while you're over in the US, you spent 3 seasons there. So you must have really enjoyed your experience to keep going back.
Mate, I loved it. I loved it. I honestly thought for a while there, mate, I'll end up living here. But I look at how the US is now. I'm pretty glad I came home, to be quite honest.
So after your 3 seasons in the US, you decide to go and chance your arm playing in the UK, and you joined the London Scholars. So tell us about that experience,
mate. Funny that. Well, you were my CEO at the time, so you tell me how I went. I don't know, mate. It was a funny thing. I feel like a bit of a sexual refugee actually, because I was seeing a Norwegian girl who ended up becoming my wife, and we met here in Brisbane, and after that. She said, "My visa's up, I've got to go." Now, I was originally meant to go to France, and I'd signed on with Albi in France, and it was all good. 2 weeks before we're due to go, the coach has been sacked. Every player he's signed on.
All signings are done.
You're out.
Oh, no.
That's it. So I was done. I'm like, shit.
Jeez.
So I had to scramble around and search, and I sent CVs to every single British club I'd ever heard of.
Yep.
And then, I got 2 bites. One was from Blackpool and one was from London. And I chose London because I'd never heard of Blackpool. So I didn't want to get stuck in a small town. Yeah. So at least if you're in London, there's a lot of people there.
Plenty to see and do.
Exactly right. It's a good base to have. So that was it. Yeah, I flew over 2 weeks later on a plane and landed in London.
So what was that season like? What did you think of the standard there? And and the thing with London, there's always a good mix of Londoners, Northerners, a few Aussies and Kiwis. Like, how was the dynamic of the team as well?
Mate, as you know yourself, mate, the team, it was made up of a bit of everything. Like, it was a pretty unique. I reckon it was pretty much like playing for the United Nations, the way it was. I mean, we had nearly every single country represented, I'm sure of it. So I ended up having a German grandfather. I ended up playing a couple of Nines cameo appearances with the German side with Simon Cooper.
Yep.
So I could say, all right, well, we've got Germany, we've got Ghana, we've got Jamaica, we've got
Mark Meredith from Samoa.
There you go. Mate, there was plenty, and we had Namila Davui. He was Fiji. So. Mate, we had a good mix. We had Richie Lau, who was South African and possibly the toughest man I've ever seen in my life. So he was a very big from Joburg hard man. So it was nice to sort of be running next to a bloke like that.
Well, I played a season with ex-London scholars Rupert Yonkers and Mario Dutoit. So guys, if you're watching, big shout out to you guys. But those South Africans, they're just made for rugby league. They were hard as nails.
Mate, they certainly were. And just when you mentioned those two names as well, I forgot all about them. But they just and good blokes, really good blokes.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, mate. If you boys, I hope you can come out to Australia one day. I'd love to have a beer with you.
So. Every episode, a few days out, we usually put on social media. If any fans have a question, just let us know what you'd like to ask the guest. And I've had someone that you'd be familiar with, Lee Nisson's contacted us, ex-teammate, and he said, "Can you tell us about what you got up to off the field in London?" But we're a PG show, so I don't know whether we should be sharing these stories.
Oh, well, to be honest, like me and Lee, we used to go and do hot yoga.
Right.
There was a lot of hot yoga. We did a poetry slam one night. There was a lot of that. Like, we were good boys. I tried to get him into going to church, but he just wouldn't be a part of it. But in all honesty, this is a PG show, so you know what the London days were like. It was good times had by all. We were a pretty tight knit group who used to drink a fair bit when we weren't training. So. It was good.
Play hard, party hard.
Yeah, exactly. Lee, you're going to get yourself into trouble here, so no more questions like that.
And Lee, thanks for being a fan of the show. I hope you're doing well, buddy. So, Woz, you mentioned, you played for Germany. Let's quickly rewind to your USA days.
Yep.
So, playing 3 seasons in the US, you were actually picked to play for the Tomahawks. So, tell us, who did you play against and what was it like playing for the Tomahawks?
Well, the first time when I got there, it was... they were a bit fast and loose with the old rules back then, so they just said, "Oh, we need you." So we had the Bala side came to visit, and they said, "Oh, we'll put in a junior team," and because I think I was like 21 or 22 at the time, and they said, "Oh, well, mate, we'll chuck you in there, get into it." And I said, "Yeah, sweet." So that was my first taste, and then we came out here. They had I don't know whether it was a 9s or 7s. I think it might have been a 9s comp. I'm not too sure, mate. It's that many years ago. I'm that old.
Yeah.
But so I played with them out here. We played a couple of games on tour out here down in Sydney. Played in a 9s tournament, and I've got to tell you this story. Like, I got smoked by who was it? Who was a Penrith winger? Like, he was an Aboriginal fella. Mate, I can't remember his name. Like. Anyway,
just really fast and
he was playing for Penrith, and all of a sudden he's bobbed up with the Aboriginal side,
right,
like the Koori side, and they've chipped it over the top. I'm the only one within cooey of this ball. Roberts, that's it, Roberts.
Oh, he ended up playing for Wigan.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, Roberts. And, Amos Roberts, that was it. Well, cheers, Amos. You made me feel like a turtle that day because he dead set. I was the only one with it, and all I could hear was the crowd roaring louder and louder as I was getting closer to the ball, and then I heard these footsteps, and they were coming quick. It felt like I was in a car on a highway. He has literally just gone like that, gone around me, gone in front. The ball's popped up magically into his hands perfectly. He streaked away from, and I honestly was trying to put my afterburners on, like, which I don't have, but it was ridiculous. Like, the speed of this man, and I was trying my little heart out, and he just burned me. I even clapped him. I did. I just sat there after he put the ball down and went, "That was good. That was really good."
Oh, fantastic stuff. And so, Woz, you mentioned, the German grandfather. So, playing for Germany, who did you play against and what was that like?
Mate, I was with, I got to know, obviously, sort of, when you're in Europe, there's a lot of international rugby league stuff going on over there.
Yeah.
I find we're a bit sheltered over here with that sort of stuff and the development that the European Federation do. Mate, I got to know Simon Cooper, and obviously he's, the great man, was the founder of the German Rugby League, and Rest in peace, Alsai. He was such a good bloke. He got onto me and said, mate, we're coming over for a Nines tournament at our home ground there. Mate, do you want to come into it? I said, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I did that. And the funny thing was I ended up having because of that, I ended up having a stint of rugby union over in Germany as well.
All right.
And then, but that lasted about 2 months.
Right.
I wasn't really a big fan of rugby union, to be quite honest. I just,
Wow.
at the time, I was just like, mate, I still got rugby league in my head at the moment. So
Yeah.
Now that rugby union's gone professional, I really enjoy it now, and that's saying something. So rugby union's come a long way.
So what was it like in Germany? Was there many teams?
Mate, there was a few teams there. Mate, rugby union was big. Like, it was surprisingly big over there.
Right.
They sort of take it pretty serious, and there's a bit of money and cash floating around. That's why I went over there. I was trying to get paid, but rugby league, they're struggling like every other rugby league around the world. We're always struggling for money, but eventually people will cotton on that this is a good game. So we'll see what happens.
Definitely. So after your time in the UK for scholars, you mentioned you met a Norwegian girl, and you end up moving to Norway, and you set up Norway Rugby League. So tell us about the early days of the Norwegian Rugby League.
Oh, mate, when I first moved there, because obviously rugby league didn't exist, so when I moved, I was I'll join the local rugby union club in Oslo, so I can make some friends.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I went and did that, and in the end, like they'd have 100 people to train them.
Wow.
And then, but they'd only ever pick the same guys. So, and it was always the expats.
So it's a closed shop for these guys.
It was, and then I felt sorry for the Norwegians, and I said, look, why don't you guys turn up to training every week and you never get a game? And then I approached the club and I said, why don't you let them? I'll coach them. I'll teach them the fundamentals, because, to be honest, their coaching in Norway was poor compared to where I'd just come from. So I said, look, I'll coach them, and we'll just do something like that, because they're not going to catch up to you. Like, you're too far ahead of them.
Yeah. So these were like expat English and Kiwis.
Yeah, and South Africans and stuff like that, and French, and mate, they had them for everywhere. And they knew I was from rugby league, and then they just went, no. They absolutely dead set refused me.
Well, they had that hatred for the
game. Yeah,
game.
there was a lot of animosity there about it, and then I just went, you know what, bugger it. So I went and approached all the local Norwegians, and I said, look, come with me. I'm going to teach you how to play, and I'm going to give you a game. So, without even asking, the rugby union guys, I went and put a rugby league game on before their rugby union game.
Oh wow!
Of all the guys left over, like the guys that weren't getting a run.
That wouldn't have gone down well.
No, it didn't go down very well. But I mean, to be fair, we're flying now. Like that one little germ, because my thing was, no, if you can teach the locals to appreciate it, and our game's a lot easier to teach than rugby union. So I said, all right, well, leave it with me, I'll teach them the basics, because if they can play rugby league first, they're going to be a hell of a lot better rugby union players for you down the track, because their fundamental skills are being worked on. Like, rugby league is your fundamentals, and then rugby union is, well, you've got to add more on top of that. That's always how I've viewed it. So let me work on their fundamentals, and then you guys can finesse them later. Nah, they refused. I said, all right, well, I'll just turn it into a rugby league then. And that was it. We started off with, I still to this day call them the originals.
Yeah.
They ended up becoming my close mates. And now you'll see that the differences between league and union in Norway is unions still have, the expats basically run that comp. But with rugby league, it's actually run by Norwegians. So,
right,
mate, it's a good thing to have. Particularly, it's only 10 years old. 10 years old, and they're already sitting there snapping at the heels of union, which has been around for 50 years. But that's because, right from the get-go, my main aim was get the locals involved, because it'll never take off with expats. So we did. Me and my now ex-wife, but we spoke about it the other day actually, and we used to bust our asses every day trying to get Norwegians involved, and we did. It worked, and they're kicking on, and congratulations to them.
Awesome. Tell us about the first Norway Rugby League season. How many teams did you have, and did you struggle getting match officials and things like that? I remember there was a young fella, Justine, who was he lived in Australia for a while, but he was a Norwegian heritage guy who ref. But yeah, tell us about that first season, actually getting that comp off the ground and teams playing each other.
Well, we had 3 teams. I had a bit of luck because we had enough in Oslo itself to split the teams, and I said, all right, well, 2 teams is not going to be enough. We had another guy who was one of those guys who missed out, called Bjørn Mikkelsen.
Right.
And he became my right-hand man when we first started. He was living out in a place called Lillestrøm.
Yep.
And then what happened was he said, all right, well, I'll start a club out where I am, and now we got 3. Now, Lillestrøm's only about half an hour outside of Oslo,
right.
So northeast of Oslo. So now we've got a 3-team comp. Now we can have a proper comp.
Yep.
And that's really how we got started. Like, we had to do nine aside at the start, but it didn't matter. The guys were just happy to just play.
As long as they're getting out there,
exactly,
having fun.
They're getting a run, and that's all they ever wanted and all they ever asked for.
Yep.
And we were smart enough to fulfil that gap for them, and they loved us for it. And mate, we got a pretty loyal following because of that. That's the policy. We give the locals a start. That's what it's meant to be about.
So say the first 3 years of Norway Rugby League. So first year was 3 teams. Where did you go in year 2 and 3? Did it go 4, and did it keep expanding? Or
yeah, it did, mate. Yeah, we were lucky because sort of, I hate to say it, but it was true. I used to say to people when I was doing this is not a democracy, it's a dictatorship. When you guys, do your apprenticeship within the sport, we'll expand it a bit more and give you a bit more power. But trust me methods in what I'm doing. I've come from Australia where this is huge.
Yep.
I've got a strategy in place. Just let me run it. And then they had enough faith in me to do that. And
yep.
So we started expanding, and then I'd purposefully bring guys in who, where are you from? Oh, they were in Oslo for the weekend or something like that, and they came from other cities around Norway, and they'd find out, we'll come and have a game. I'd send them away, and I'd send them away with balls and markers and shit like that, and say, I'll come and visit you, and I'll come and visit the schools in your area.
Right.
So that was how we were doing it, just like how the NRL do it.
Yeah.
So what I'd do is I'd say, all right, well, you set yourself up, start a club. Oh, no, just start a club, and you leave the rest to me.
Yeah.
So then I'd go out and visit the schools and make sure, all right, we're drumming up. And by the way, here's the number of the new club that's just started out if you like it. And they'd have a gaggle of young fellas there, and that was it. Club's now started. So
fantastic.
Yeah, no, it was a quick draw McGraw sort of way of doing it, but it worked.
Successful.
The guys are still going well. So, mate, there's always going to be dramas and clubs folding and brand new clubs starting up. But, mate, if you can get the locals to be passionate about your sport, you're on a winner, because eventually, you're just like myself, you're going to burn yourself out. And I'm sure, we've spoken to other guys. I know a lot of guys from around the world. And we get burnt out. The only thing that keeps us going is, we need a break usually, and it takes about a month, maybe 6 weeks, and then we get slowly but surely drawn back into it, and that's it. You're back where you started, and you're into it again. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So you introduced the Scandinavian Nines tournament, which is a great concept, and I was involved in one of them, which we'll talk about shortly. But what made you decide to bring the Scandinavian Nines in, and when did you bring that in? Was that year 3, year 4 into Norway Rugby League?
I think it was about third year. I think maybe around the third year there. The whole concept was we were starting to get interest in how I did it from guys in Sweden and then guys in Denmark. Yeah. And the problem was they wanted to, and it's always the way, we always find people in our sport or who come into our sport, I always think, I'm not very, I know it's bad, but I'm not very trusting of them. Like, why are you coming to our sport? And automatically they want to do an international series, and they want this and they want that, and I'm like, man, this isn't going to be your saviour. Like, don't use our game to boost your own ego. There's a lot of egos within rugby league, and I know we've all got them, but Like, not when you're first starting out. Like, sort of, as I say, do your apprenticeship within the game first, and then, you know, when you're ready, you know, we'd be happy to give you more control.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we had a couple of guys, you know, probably not the Swedish. The Danish were a bit like that. They were a bit like gun-ho, but
Yeah.
it's like, well, you know, all right, well, we'll send a side down to play against you guys just to give you a mark-up. And now, hindsight's a terrible thing, because now I look back, I probably should have said to them, we won't come and visit you, because it was all at the expense of our guys. Like, our guys, and, you know, my poor ex-wife, I think I'm in debt to her by about $500,000. The amount of money she pumped into rugby league. Wow. You know, like, mate, she kept that thing running for years. No wonder she left me. I was fucking horrible. I was the worst husband in the world. I was never home. I was taking her money. Jesus. Oh, yeah, it wasn't good. Yeah, we had a few rough years, but, mate, she was a legend. So if you're watching, Celia, thanks for everything. The rugby league world, thanks you.
Well, I was from an outside looking in. I was based in London at the time, and I was in awe of, you know, Norway rugby league just seemed to be going from strength to strength. And you invited me over to referee at the Scandinavian Nines. I think it was about 2012. Norway Rugby League had just appointed Craig West, who was based in France, married a French woman after playing rugby league there, based himself there. He was named the head coach. Westy, if you're watching, I hope you're well. You're a good man. And I remember going to Oslo, and I refereed in the Nines, and we had teams. We had a Northern England team come over. I think there was the Danish team came over. So it was great for development in that region, and I actually thought the standard was really good. I don't know whether you remember that there was this Swedish bloke, really solid Swedish bloke, just putting hits on everyone. And I remember you were on the microphone, and you said that was a bone rattler, and I just said, "Geez, I was in my head. I was out there in the field, and I just thought, gee, these guys, you know, considering they didn't grow up with rugby league, they actually were pretty good." And I remember you invited me to the season launch, and there was a Norwegian guy. He sounded like an American, but he said he was Norwegian born and raised, and they just watched a lot of American TV. That's why they had American accents or something. But I remember he was on the microphone emceeing, and we had a team from Tromsø, which was right up the north of Norway, and it was so professionally done, and I was just in awe. I was so happy to be a part of that, and like that would have taken a lot of effort to put that tournament on. Like,
mate, it did, as you know, and this is what many people don't see. You know, I'm just looking over at Righty now, and I think I'm going to reminisce with him here. Like, we all go through it. Like, all of us guys, like yourself included, you know, we give our lives away for this game. You know, this is what we do, and you know, that's our purpose. And you know, I wouldn't have it any other way. But you know, you talk about, oh, it was professionally done, but it wasn't, because when you look behind the scenes, like, yeah, you were the main ref for that whole tournament. I drove you to ref every single game, you poor bugger. But then you'd end up sleeping on my couch. You know what I mean? Like, and all I could do was offer you beers, and in Norway, that's a pretty expensive thing, mate. It's like $25 for a schooner. So it's it wasn't, mate. It wasn't ever. The glossy stuff on the outside was just hiding just how hard we had to work, you know, behind closed doors. Like, I remember after that Nines tournament, everyone was ready to get on the beers, because obviously we had an expat Aussie side who won it against Germany, believe it or not. So, you know, and when they did, like, half of those guys were sleeping in my living room on, you know, on like blow up couches and stuff like that. It was just, I'd taken the whole house, and we had housemates at the time too, and I'd taken the whole house. There was about 20 guys just living in this house. It stunk to high heaven because there was too many bodies there. And mate, but that's how we had to do it to start with. You know, that was how we got going. But you know, when you say, yeah, it turned professional, yeah, we did eventually. Like, we got better, but yeah, don't ever discount, you know, the work that all of us did. I was lucky. I had guys like yourself, and I had, you know, my right hand man eventually became, you know, Lars Haig, and mate, without Lars, even to this day, like, you know, Lars and Anna Haig, his mother, you know, the game would be dead if those guys didn't pick up when I left.
I remember Lars. He was a winger that was from that English team that came.
He was from Saddleworth and
Saddleworth Rangers. Yeah, that's it.
And mate, he's just as passionate about rugby league as I am, and mate, I miss him. I can't wait to get over to the World Cup and catch up with him for a couple of crazy nights like the old days. So, but mate, he, guys like him, I was lucky. I had guys like that I could rely on. That without them, like I know it's nice to say, I get all the glossy stuff, but without a lot of people involved in what I did, it never would have worked. So. I can't sit there and say, I did this, I did that. I say we did it, and that's why I keep, to this day, I always talk about, the OGs of Norway Rugby League. Like, they're the ones that we should be thanking, because I had the idea, but without those guys doing the groundwork, it never would have happened.
Laying the platform. And
exactly right.
So I was just, before I move on, I just want to quickly tell a little story. So as you were saying...
Do we want to?
As you were saying about how Norway, the beer costs so much. So that was my first trip to Norway when I was reffing at the Scandinavian Nines. And I remember at the after-match function where you got up and did the presentation. Before that, we had a fish and chips and a beer for dinner. And I remember paying, I worked it out, it was equivalent of £40 for fish and chips and a beer. And I'd never been to somewhere so expensive. Downtown Oslo. It's an expensive place. But
I hope you got a mortgage on the house, because you're going to have to refinance.
So I was moving on. So Craig West is the head coach of Norway. And I remember Norway went and toured Malta, I think it was the year after, maybe 2013 or 2014. So tell us about that tour. How'd that go?
Mate, well, there's another one of the boys, like Anthony McAuliffe. Mate, he's a good mate of yours, and now I can proudly say good mate of mine. Love him.
Great
mate,
guy.
He was, legend of a guy. And, mate, he was just so dedicated to the game as well, like in Malta, like such a small island, but he made it work. And, mate, I tell you what, he can put on a tour. Like, if ever any team wants to go on tour, I suggest go to Malta, because that island is just built for good times, I tell you. And mate, we took a side down there, and the whole thing was professional. We doing TV interviews, and I think I'd upset the locals because I told them we were going to bash them and stuff like that. I was doing it on purpose. I was trying to get a rise so we'd get more people to the game, and I think it might have worked too much because they were giving it to me after they flogged us. So, I don't think I was a very popular man on the island, but mate, no, good times. Everyone really looked after us, and mate, it was happy days. We ended up going back again, and old Jared Samet, he played for him and smoked the living hell out of us. So, mate, I tell you, good times. Malta, definitely go there. Like, you got to go to Malta. If you haven't been there, you got to go.
Well, we're filming during Magic Round, and Malta are playing Montenegro this weekend. And I saw Jared Samet tweeted, and he's in the squad. So Montenegro are going to have a tough time containing him because he's an awesome player.
Oh, mate, have you seen his Instagram?
No, only on Twitter I follow him.
Well, I tell you what. Don't look at it, because when he gets his shirt off, it really makes you depressed.
Puts us to shame.
Oh, he's the fittest man alive. Oh, Jared, I don't know what you're doing, mate, but eat something.
But just on Anthony. Anthony, I know you're a fan of the show, so big shout out to you and all the hard work you've done in Malta, and Roderick and all the hard-working staff there to keep rugby league going and thriving. In the early days, Malta would invite touring teams, and like you said, it was a great place to tour.
Yeah.
I remember Cambridge University toured, and Anthony got me over to referee Bamber Bridge. They were a great bunch of lads, and got me over to referee that game. And when you said about what you said on the media to try and get a rise, I refereed Malta versus Denmark, and there was a bit of it wasn't an all-in, but it was one or two fighting just before half time, and I'd sent a couple of players to the bin, and I think Malta were losing 8-0 at half time, and I was the most
unpopular man
in Malta. But Malta ended up winning, I think it was 12-8 or 14-8 in the end, and Anthony will remember this. I took so long to get ready for the after-match function after the game. They left me in the change rooms, and I looked around. I was the last one in the stadium, and I had to get a taxi to the after-match function because they forgot about me. But
on purpose, or
probably. But Anthony, keep up the good work and all the hard-working staff there. So, was the next chapter in your life after you moved back to Australia from Norway, you ended up picking up a role with the New Zealand Warriors. So tell us about what the role entailed and how was that?
I was just working. I actually, I got invited by my uncle. He said, "Why don't you come over here for a bit?" Maybe. Anyway, so I got on the Warriors and I said, "Look, I'm coming over." And he said, "Yeah, sweet." So it was Brian Smith was the head of the football department at the time.
So Brian Smith, the ex-NRL coach?
Yep. So, and he luckily just said, "Yeah, come and see me in the office." And he said, "Well, where do you want to go? What do you want to do?" I said, "Oh, I don't care." He said, "We'll put you with the youth development squad and just work with them." So yeah, I went and did that for a bit. And the funny thing was, then after that, I ended up becoming mates with the old Warriors winger, that Francis Melly.
Okay.
And he put me on to. It's funny how the world works. Everyone knows each other. Like it was, Francis was. He's put me on. He said, "Oh, go and do local club stuff too on the weekends. You'll make some mates."
Right.
And, all right. So he's put me on to Glenora Bears.
Oh yeah.
And the coach of Glenora Bears at the time was Bernie Perinara, father to Henry Perinara, the referee.
Right.
So I became good family friends with Henry's family over in New Zealand and spent most of my Friday and Saturday nights having a beer with them.
Fantastic.
Mate, and Glenora as a club, my mum grew up in West Auckland, and Glenora is based out in West Auckland, so lots of Maoris and Islanders, so not a place you want to be getting lost in dark. So it's so it's got a bit of a rep, old West Auckland, but
right.
mate, I love the joint. It was great. Obviously having family there as well, originally from that area, that helped. But I tell you, I don't think the Kiwis like me very much though, so I was kind of happy to come home, to be honest, because
really
looking like this but sounding like this, it wasn't a good mix over there. They
say you're a rarity in Auckland with an Aussie accent, I guess.
Rarity or a target, I'm not too sure.
Well, it's great to see that you're still involved with rugby league. You're still working in the game. You've just been appointed to a new role up in North Queensland. So tell us about the new role and
Central Queensland. Oh, Central Queensland. They'll get upset.
Central Queensland.
Yeah, so, no, the Capras boys will be upset. You say North.
So tell us about what's it like up there and how and you're doing long hours. Like tell us about the role.
It's hot. That's what all I can say about Rockhampton. It's hot, mate. They brought on a new ops manager. So the whole thing was just about. How can they, just run things a bit more professionally and grow the game a bit, which obviously I had a bit of experience in. It's a pretty big job. It's big. I honestly thought this would be easy.
Yeah.
No dramas. Do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, no worries. And then I got up there and they have a different structure there where the clubs are. If I'm being honest, the clubs have a lot of power up there, and they're basically the board is the
each club.
Each club, which is understandable. But I sort of was hoping to get a couple of independents on there to sort of break the ice a little bit, because the problem is, or what I view as a problem is the fact that they're you'll never get anywhere if the clubs are just arguing and bickering amongst themselves. You've got to have a laser focus on where do we want to get to? Do we all agree on it? Let's get to there.
Yeah, we all got to pull in the same direction.
That's exactly right, and it just, I guess for me, it's frustrating. Trying to, obviously, you'll get blokes who think you're doing great and blokes who think you're an arse. Depending on what decision you make.
Yeah.
So.
And sometimes you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
And that's exactly right. And I the only thing I do up there is I just try and make sure that people know that everything I do is for the betterment of the game. And I've said it to them a couple of times. I think it bristles them the wrong way, but I say to them, look, I don't care about your individual club. That's not the main thing for me. The sport is the main thing for me.
Got to put rugby league first.
That's what's going to come first. If that's what helps the sport. Because if the sport's going well, you're going well.
100%.
I keep trying to reiterate that, and hopefully they all buy in over time, and we'll see how we go.
So how long have you been in the role for so far?
A couple of months.
So it's going so far, so good.
So far, so good. But you never know in this world. It's I could be cut tomorrow, and who knows?
Well, good luck. I hope it goes well, and rugby league keeps going onward and upward in that area. But as we've spoken about in the episode, you've got an extensive background in rugby league, not only just in Australia but all around the world. So I just wanted to ask you, in the upcoming World Cup, who's going to surprise us?
Mate, I would say Jamaica. So, to be honest, like, people don't realise, especially over here, like, we live in this little rugby league cocoon over here, that, mate, half the guys in that Jamaican side are either playing Super League or Championship.
Yeah.
You know, like, they're no slouches, and these guys are Jamaican heritage, Jamaican blood, but they've been playing rugby league their whole life.
Yeah.
And I tell you, everyone here is probably going to sit there and think, this is a joke. How can they be in this competition? Well, they're going to turn a few heads and they're going to pop a few off. And when you see the skill level of these guys, they obviously have that West Indian blood, but they've been trained in rugby league their whole lives. These guys are no slouches, and for them to knock off the US like they did, that says it in itself, and that's them just getting started. That was without half their team. Now that they're obviously in the World Cup and we've had to delay it for this long, now other guys are sitting there saying, well, I can get a World Cup spot. So those Super League guys, they're all going to be in there, and they're going to shock a lot of people. But to me, look, I'm not shocked. So no, I think they'll go real well.
So it's going to be, for international rugby league fans, it's going to be a great World Cup, and I'm sure there's going to be a few surprises for us all. So was my last question. If you're in charge of the NRL, where do you put the 18th franchise? So it was up to you. You've negotiated TV rights and you've got enough funding, and we're ready to expand to an 18th franchise after the Dolphins have been in for a few years. Yep. Where do you place the 18th team?
Well, you place it in to a different time zone. Like, it's absolutely mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. Now you're getting me started. How the hell you can put another team in Brisbane? You put another team in Brisbane on the exact same time zone. Like, WA are 2 to 3 hours behind us, which is perfect. You can lead up and you can have games all night. All night. You could do the same if you took a side to Wellington or Christchurch. The exact same way. If you were smart, you'd put a side in both. And I'm sick to death of hearing people on TV, in the media, sitting there saying to us, we don't have enough talent, we don't have enough talent. I guarantee you right now, I haven't even looked at the New South Wales Cup, but I watch the Queensland Cup every week. There is enough talent in there to put a Queensland Cup side in the NRL, because half of that Queensland Cup are NRL players. So why can't we put another side in? Don't sit there, oh no, it'll dilute the talent. No, it won't. You just give that talent the opportunity to train full time and get a shot. You do that, and the whole world will change. Don't just go, no, we're not doing that. That's a selfish, narrow-minded attitude, and that's the whole problem with our game at the moment, in my view.
Well, I said on past episodes and I'm sure you'll agree with me here, but there's another 100 Justin Olams in PNG just waiting to be developed in a professional system. Vunivalus and Micah Sivos out of Fiji. Being worldly people, like we've lived around the world, there's some fantastic rugby union talent. We haven't, when people say there's not enough talent out there, are we, is that, we're just putting it, that's an argument to say it's in the too hard basket?
I don't even think it's too hard. I think it's more just narrow-minded, because it goes back to the old Sydney days. That's my view. They're just thinking of, no, we want to keep it closed house. Why? Because if we bring in other clubs, they're going to steal our players. And that's all they're thinking about.
Self-interest.
Yeah, exactly. Like, get that out. Think of the game. I keep saying it. Like, guys, get your club hat off and think of the game. If the game's going well, your club's going well.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that just leads me on my last point before we wrap up, where you see the NBA, they put highlights on YouTube, and the NRL is very protective over their rights, and they don't want people seeing it for free. You got to pay, but to get new fans, we need more eyeballs on our sport, because we have a great product. And imagine if people in America or Jamaica can just go and watch games on YouTube, which to be fair to the NRL, I've seen them put a lot of old games on now, like they might have put 2 years ago's All-Star game on so people can watch the whole game and things like that. But Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
But see, here's where, you know, I've always had the view that don't put business people in charge of a sport because they're two different things. A business is constantly trying to make money, you know, so they can give it to their shareholders. Whereas a sport is constantly trying to make money to plough it straight back into the sport. Like it's an ever-rounding circle. And if you're smart, you'll grow that circle bigger. But it's just got to keep going around. The whole purpose of a sport is to get the money in so they can plough it back into the sport. The whole purpose of a business is to get money in so they can shell it out.
Take it out, yeah.
Why the hell would we as a sport give the reins to... So here's a classic example of why I get so passionate about this and why it upsets me. Is because of the fact that when we're sitting there and the NRL is getting asked by all these other countries that are just starting out, hey, can you send us some of your like tackling videos or you know content so we can show our guys? Nope, we're not showing you. We're not doing that. No, that's our personal content. Yeah, it's private. You can't have it. But we got 100 guys. So we're not trying to overtake you. We're just trying to get started. We don't care. No, we're not doing that. Like, and I'll throw you breadcrumbs. But guys, the NRL is the biggest and they're the best. You know, and I just got a feeling that maybe they're not seeing that, hey, because you guys are the matriarchs, we need your help as a sport. Like even the game in the UK is struggling at the moment. You know, and if you guys are going well, then mate, we need your help. Share the pie, because if the game's going well, you're going well.
Well, the way I see it is going back to the NBA for an example. If the NBA is big around the world, if I'm an Aussie NBA fan, I'm going to buy an NBA jersey. I'm not going to. I mean, you know, I want the NBL to do well, but I'm going to go and buy a Golden State Warriors jersey or a Milwaukee Bucks jersey. If I'm an American and I love rugby league, I'm going to buy a South Sydney jersey.
Exactly right.
So the more international fans we have, it's going to help the game as a whole. And I think sometimes we don't look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, mate. We can be, well, I wouldn't say a little bit insular, very insular on a few subjects like that. And mate, my views and comments and stuff, you know, it'll probably bristle a few people, but you know, just like a belly button, everyone's got one, so it doesn't really matter. But you know, they're my views from a bloke who's been around the world and seen the game and tried to help it grow. Like if we can, you know, get more guys like old Taz Batiri, we'd be better off. Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
100%. Well, Woz, thanks so much for giving up your time to come on the show today.
That's all right, mate. Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure, and cheers.
No, thanks, mate. Ta.